on November, their voices are, of course, once again being ignored. 31,383 people voted for the only at-large race. Of the 31,000 who voted, Joel received 29%, Karen received 27%. The next four candidates received 14, 11, 5, and 1% of the vote. All of them are white males. They received 18% of the vote, or an average of 5% each. None of the other seats were at large, so Major Joel's math was at last meeting was extremely wrong and rather wonky. The 72% is completely incorrect. Second, when City Council went through the districting process, I don't remember a single member or the mayor objecting when miraculously every City Council member retained their seat, including all three who live within spitting distance of each other. Not a single member said anything, including Joel and Johnny, about the redrawing of boundaries to have a better, more balanced representation. The tremendous hypocrisy of these two members, all of a sudden caring about representation, a balanced city council, and giving everyone a voice is positively ludicrous. Third, having resources outside Brentwood try to manipulate residents of Brentwood by sending a mailer that took a few keystrokes to figure out that concerned citizens were nothing of the sort. This was a gross attempt to intimidate people to vote for builder-friendly appointee. Shows how desperate builders and these two council members who are beholden to them are to get somebody specifically seated. 40,000 for a mayor and 5,900, half of his donations, for a city council member is quite the investment by builders. I looked through the financials filed required by anyone running for office to get these numbers. Fourth, the verbiage on the survey was changed from what was agreed upon at the last council meeting in an effort to give the mayor and council member Rodriguez an excuse not to accept the voices of the residents of Brentwood voting for a third time. I'm not sure how many times people have to express their opinions to get things done, or how much money the mayor and council member Rodriguez want to waste. But if this is how they would like the next 2 years to go, we're ready to make our voices heard. Clearly, this has nothing to do with diversity, the voices of the residents of Brentwood, or fair representation. It has everything to do with seating someone that they think will rubber stamp all the projects presented by the builders. As a final note, they would also have no problem wasting taxpayer dollars during a pandemic when businesses in Brentwood are hurting and having important city business held up and by having to go to a special election. So please remember that everyone, that if these two actually will be held responsible for the expenditure and the waste of time.
The speaker's time was up. The next speaker is Donald Smith, followed by Rod Floor. Mr. Smith, I'll unmute you now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Donald Smith. I am a resident of Brentwood. First, I wanted to thank the staff for the survey. I thought that it was handled very well, and the glitches that did develop were addressed very quickly, and I feel confident that the results of the survey are results that we can rely on. As I see it, the council has only two choices for filling the position. Choice number one, the one that I support, is appointing the second highest vote getter, Karen Riller, to fill the position. She is very well qualified, having served on the council, and she possesses a wealth of knowledge about the issues the council will face. Incidentally, appointing the second highest vote getter was the preference of a vast majority of the people who responded to the survey. There is a precedent for making an appointment like that. In the past, the council has appointed the second highest vote getter in a recent election to fill a vacancy. In fact, in 1996, they passed Measure F, which stated the council would take that route when a vacancy occurred midterm. Apparently, the current council doesn't believe they are bound by that measure. The only other choice, in my view, is to call a special election by mail, that's M-A-I-L, not M-A-L-E, as soon as legally possible. Choosing to interview potential candidates and then have the current council members vote would almost certainly result in 2-2 ties on each candidate who is voted upon. So it's a waste of time. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. While having a special election is costly, conducting it by mail would cut that cost. The council has often said that they want to hear from the citizens of Brentwood, but emails and comments at council meetings don't seem to count. We've even been referred to as a special interest group. No, we're not a special interest group. We're citizens of Brentwood. Developers are a special interest group, but apparently their money speaks louder than our voices. I propose that you follow
30
the
seconds
results of the
remaining.
survey and cut the developers out of the loop, appoint the second highest vote getter, don't hold a costly special election, and don't give the developers another chance to buy a seat on the council. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and unmute Rod Floor now. And if I could just remind people, if you'd like to speak, if you could use the raise your hand feature in WebEx, and I'll unmute you when it's your turn to talk. And you'll have 3 minutes per person, and I'll provide a verbal notice when there's approximately 30 seconds left on the timer. And when the time is up, your microphone will be muted. Rod? And if those who've already spoken could go ahead and unraise their hands. Rod, go
Thank you,
ahead.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Once again, the new mayor for the twice in 3 meetings has omitted the public comments that are required at the beginning of every council meeting, and it's effectively cut our time in half. So he has no interest in hearing from us, but he will anyway. 2 weeks ago, when the issue of how to fill the vacancy was first debated by this council, I spoke to you about a straw poll we created that had over 200 responses that showed just about the same percentages as the survey that the city just completed with nearly 3,000 responding, showing more than 60% of respondents favored appointing the second highest vote getter and more than 20% favored a special election. And less than 10% or 14% in the new survey favored an appointment process. What's more, back in 1996, more than 60% of voters stated their preference for the next highest vote getter in a measure labeled Measure F, a fact conveniently ignored in the staff report. There's no getting around the fact that every time the voters of Brentwood are asked, about 2/3 of them prefer this option. In addition, at the last meeting, dozens of emails and more than 20 speakers at the meeting spoke out in favor of appointing Karen Rary as the second highest vote getter, and if that was not possible, holding a special election. You were told in no uncertain terms that the citizens do not trust Joel Bryant and Johnny Rodriguez to make a fair selection from among applicants, and that citizens expect to see someone in that office who has been approved by the voters, not selected by the council. Joel and Johnny refused to listen. We were told all sorts of bizarre stories about all these other anonymous people who wanted someone from District 4 or who did not feel they had an opportunity to participate in an election that was literally open to every registered voter in Brentwood. None of these people could be named. We were given no good reason to reject Karen Rary, and Rodriguez even sang her praises. Joel Bryant had nothing to say other than that she had lost with a very slightly higher margin than he had, and that somehow indicated people do not want her in the office, even though he is happy to serve under the exact same circumstance. Now, with a new survey, it will be interesting to see how Joel and Johnny try to spin the result. They have destroyed their own reputations and sullied their elected offices with their conduct at the last meeting. Many eyes are upon them tonight to see how far they will push it. Most people assume they are desperate to please their wealthy donors and developer friends at any cost to their own reputations. They have put themselves in a box, and we will watch as they try to claw their way out. We have given up on either of these two showing any integrity in this office. We entreat Council members Mendoza and Meyer to hold firm. If they will accept Karen Rary, then fine. If not, then do the special election. Under no circumstances should they permit these two corrupt individuals to select one of their cronies to fill what should be an elected position. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Karina Moreno, followed by Laura Avila. Karina, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, and good evening. Good Mayor Bryant, Vice Mayor, and Councilwomen. I appreciate the opportunity to speak at this time to express our agreement with the survey and with the overall results, which outline the community's request to appoint the second highest vote getter for mayor from the November election. It was not to appoint any qualified candidate from the 2020 election or any other eligible elector, it was to appoint Ms. Karen Rary. In addition, at this time, I wanted to bring up a few points regarding the last meeting and concern for the unnecessary spending of city public funds. We are currently at a point in our community because of COVID where funding is low and needs are high, and our elected officials must remain focused and not arbitrarily use the gift of public funds to push their special interest. Although the survey process may have had small fiscal impacts, the reality is that there is a financial impact, and it's time to focus on city business and not waste any more time and fiscal monies. Clearly, this survey was the only way that Councilwoman Mendoza and Mayor could represent the voice of the community, because their opinion and the voice of 100 other residents was silenced. But we know that filling the seat with an applicant that is more with building and with growth of Brentwood will do a lot of damage in the next 2 years of filling the seat. Unfortunately, neither Mayor Bryant nor Vice Mayor Rodriguez provided adequate reasoning, and they both delayed the process to ensure that the business could not move forward. The survey results are the same results that the public comments were at the last meeting. The same recommendations that Councilwoman Mendoza and Meyer brought forward at the very onset of the discussion at the last meeting. There were several comments made by both Mayor Bryant and Vice Mayor Rodriguez, but one that stood out was Vice Mayor Rodriguez's insinuance that Councilwoman Mendoza at the last meeting possibly had over 100 of her friends and her family send in comments to sway the discussion, as if concerned residents' comments were not enough. So let it also be known that any resident can reach out to these two junior councilwomen who have been very present and approachable in our community prior to their campaigning. In addition, for the vice mayor to countlessly address Councilwoman Mendoza outside of her title is disrespectful, as her title was earned, and Mayor Bryant should have addressed the matter on the spot. But like for most of the last meeting, Mayor Bryant fell silent to the conversation. In today's new virtual meeting settings, more and more community will be present, watching, and active. And together we will continue to hold our elected officials accountable to their promises and not their special interests. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Laura Avila, followed by Joe Eli. And if I can remind the speakers who have already spoken to unraise your hand, please. Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for letting me speak again. I'm a little bit confused. Maybe I'm just naive, but what is really going on? Joel, I've broken bread with you. You've been to our home. Johnny supported you when you ran for office. I thought I knew you guys. This is so darn confusing to me. Joel, when the last meeting, you mentioned about how 72% of people were against Karen. Well, your logic or your use of that kind of logic really has no merit. And if I was to use your logic, 70% of those who voted didn't want you as mayor, but yet you are, and you did win. So please don't come up with some fantastic fantasy land logic. It doesn't work, and it is so unbecoming, and especially of the mayor of this wonderful city that I'm proud to live in. A precedent has been mentioned, has been set. It was set when Bob became mayor. You've got Measure F, and good God, on this survey, 66%, again, of those who participated, fill it with a second vote getter, fill it with Karen. I remember there was a time, and Johnny, I remember there was a time that you, and Karen was at a fundraiser for you. You supported Karen. I don't know what the bad blood is, but something is so odd. And what is really, really going on? I don't want to cast aspersions. I don't wish to accuse anybody of anything, but it smells like Sino. And, you know, this postcard that went out, come on, concerned people who have millions to make. And I don't want to say that you guys are on the hook. That is the furthest thing. but look at how it looks. And I respect both of you guys. Johnny, I respect you and what you do and your good, incredible work with ODAT, and I will consider to do that. Come on, this is ludicrous. Our city deserves better than this. Let's keep this kind of politicking in Washington, where it doesn't belong either, but definitely doesn't belong in Brentwood. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joe Eli, followed by Cynthiana Todor. Joe, go ahead. Joe? I'm going to skip Joe and I'll come back to him. Cynthiana, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I hope everyone can hear me. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to see that the people have spoken and validated that over 100 residents supported over 100 residents supported 2 weeks ago. Too bad Mr. Bryant and Mr. Rodriguez refused to listen to us while Jovita Mendoza and Susanna Myers fought so hard to give all residents a voice in the form of the citywide survey. The result of tonight's meeting should be to fill the vacant seat with the second highest vote getter in the 2020 mayoral election and get to work. Brentwood needs a lot of work, as we all know. What I want to talk about next is what became apparent in the last 2 weeks, and we already knew to some degree, but it's even more clear right now. Brentwood has 3 major problems. First one is our mayor, Joel Bryant. He's always concerned about serving his developer friends. During the council meeting on September 10, 2019, he said, quote, "Any process that helps local developers and smaller ones at least prepare for what is coming, I think any of that will be helpful," end quote. Every time there's a discussion involving Brentwood and developers wanting to build in Brentwood, he always sides with the developers. You ask why? Check his campaign donations for 2018 and 2020. Plus, it seems like he forgot to tell his campaign manager that the election is over. In an attempt to influence the results of the citywide survey, he cashed in his buy one, get one free coupon for glossy flyers from Wesco Graphics. They used the very same template as his mayoral campaign flyers. Pretty bad deal overall, since half of the flyers from air quotes concerned Brentwood residents arrived after the city survey was closed. Johnny Rodriguez, another big problem we have, our vice mayor now, he cannot get used to his new title. Over the last 2 years, I brought on so many issues in front of the council, and you're still confused what those issues are. Let me remind some of them. Safety in the form of fire, emergency, police services, economic development and local jobs generation, schools, infrastructure, homeless problems, just to list a few. You need to listen to what people are saying, not focus on paying back the developer who asked him to run for council and bought his seat. Spending his time trying to convince residents how great projects like Dwelling Mori and Brentwood are, allowing developers to pay in lieu fees for affordable housing and asking for money for his pet project does not benefit residents in any way. A third problem is created when some city functionaries support special interests, voluntary or involuntary, trying to silence public opinion. I really expect the city functionaries to perform their job with honesty and in a very professional manner, not interfere with the civic conversation in any way. Peter Drucker said, management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. I hope Mr. Bryant.
The speaker's timer was up. I'm going to go back to Mr. Eli. Joe Eli, are you there? The next speaker is Antonio Xavier, followed by Sue Harper. Antonio, go ahead.
My name is Antonio Xavier, and I am a resident of Shadow Lakes. Last week, I urged the council to hold a special election as option number 1, so all votes could be involved in filling the at-large council seat. I voted that same way in the survey. I am here tonight to acknowledge the desire of the majority is different from my personal choice. I want to make it clear that I fully support the winning choice and ask the mayor and council members to do the same. It is now obvious to me that the choice of next highest vote getter checks off the most boxes. First, it is fast. We can make it official tonight. Second, it is cheap. 0 taxpayer dollars have to be used. Third, it is fair. Yes, it is 100% fair. Let me explain why. Earlier today, I emailed the council an agenda from a Brentwood council meeting in 1996, as well as official election results for Measure F. The 1996 Brentwood Council wanted to know how to fill a vacant council seat if a sitting council member ran for mayor and won. Does that sound familiar? As part of the advisory vote that year, the voting citizens strongly supported filling the seat with the next highest vote getter. It passed with 68% of the vote. For the record, Karen Rary had nothing to do with the 1996 vote and was not running in the race at that time. The choice is ultimately about precedent and a fair process to all who had the courage to run in an election, to face the voters and earn their votes. It should come as no surprise that voters like to have their votes matter. It should also come as no surprise that voters don't like wasting taxpayer money. The second highest vote getter also won the survey Brentwood just held with 66%, almost identical to the 1996 vote. More importantly, using the mayor's own logic, 80% voted against the application process as a first choice. It would be an absolute travesty to waste $200,000 of taxpayer money on a special election based on all the new information we have before us. Listen to the anger tonight. I don't even want to imagine the community outrage it will create if Karen Rary ends up winning a special election and the personal choices of the mayor and vice mayor frivolously cost Brentwood
30
taxpayers
seconds remaining.
$200,000. I can admit when the majority differs from my personal choice. I hope the mayor and vice mayor can do so as well tonight. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sue Harper, followed by Vanessa. Sue, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm Sue Harper. I've lived in Brentwood for about 16 years, and I'm commenting on the approach to fill the vacant seat also on city council. After clearly seeing the results of the survey, I'm wondering where all of the interest Johnny and Joel expressed from the other districts is. Although the appointment of the second highest vote getter has overwhelming support from the community, there's an interest by 2 council members for choosing the replacement from a plate of applicants. No one on the council has strongly supported an election, so of those 3. However, if the choice is made to appoint from applicants, there is a strong chance that there will not be agreement from the council of any of the applicants. And if that happens, it will go to an election. Based on public sentiment and the results of the mayoral election, the choice would be for Karen anyway. We would have spent all that money for the same result. Let's just go with what the public wants, save time and save money, and stop playing games. Thank you.
The next speaker is Vanessa, followed by Bill Jones. Vanessa, go ahead.
Good evening. The participating residents of Brentwood have spoken, first during the 2020 election, second during the first city council meeting, and third during the survey that was last conducted. And in all 3 incidents, the residents spoke loud and clear as to who they want to represent them until the next election cycle for city council. And that is Karen Rary as the second highest vote getter in the mayor's race. The reasons why this makes sense have already been clearly stated. Our mayor and vice mayor are undermining the intelligence of this community by stalling the fulfillment of this council seat. We will not tolerate obstruction in the name of special interest any longer, and we are not buying any of the desperate excuses being thrown our way. I see no evidence, as Johnny has suggested, that there is any favored status given to Eastern, Western, or Central Brentwood, regardless of where the city council people live. All city council members should be equally concerned about all residents, their needs, their concerns, and their input, regardless of where they live. All residents are given equal opportunity to participate and have their voices heard. As a resident, I know that I care for all Brentwood residents equally. We are all stronger when all of our citizens are thriving. It is now up to the council to do the right thing, to come together as we expect our leaders to do, to make a swift decision that serves the community to get business rolling and move Brentwood forward. Jovita and Susanna are setting a new standard of professionalism and ethics that the entire council needs to follow. We cannot afford to obstruct the process any longer, as too many important issues are facing it, with COVID recovery, improving emergency services, as well as executing on the plans to move Brentwood forward on creating jobs. We have many very successful cities in the Bay Area that surround us. It's time for us to join them. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bill Jones, followed by Kobina.
Good evening. Thank you.
Bill.
So I watched and rewatched the December 15th council meeting, just for clarity with the arguments that were made regarding filling the vacant seat on the council. I've also, as everybody who's spoken tonight, have read up on this topic, and this is what has been consistent. The voters of Brentwood have spoken 3 times now. Once was in the general election, where the second highest vote getter, Karen Rary, narrowly lost by less than 2% of the vote. The next closest candidate was close to 13% behind, so the mayor and Karen Rary were hands down the top choices. There's no doubt about that. Secondly, the sample set of 100 residents that called or emailed into the council meeting on the 15th were all in favor of appointing Karen Rary to the vacant seat. The fact that that escaped one of the council members is beyond me, but anyway. Thirdly, the survey shows overwhelming approval from all 4 districts of appointing the second highest vote getter to the vacant seat. I'm also not comfortable with the application process for a couple of reasons. One, it appears that there will be no consensus from the council, and ultimately we go to a costly election anyway. Secondly, and not to say that this is the case, but when a politician takes $40,000 from a large corporation, it opens up doors to question the intentions and the integrity of that politician. Seriously, it's rare that a corporation gives out that amount of money out of the goodness of their heart. They typically expect something in return. And regarding the reference glitches in the beginning of the meeting, they were fixed, and they wouldn't have made a difference in the overwhelming outcome of the survey, which is to appoint the second highest vote getter. And seriously, asking questions along the lines of steal the vote mentality is pathetic. Respondents from all 4 districts have made it clear that the top choice of the voters is for the second highest vote getter, Karen Rary, to be placed in the vacant seat. For the council members that chose not to follow the will of the voters, I ask you to do that now. Appoint the second highest vote getter and get on with the business of running our city. And don't let this go to an election. None of us want to spend up to $280,000 to have the exact same thing can happen right now, which would be putting Karen Rary into that seat and getting on with the business of running our city. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kobina, followed by Gary Ann. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kobina Arca with Uplift and Amplify. Truly the most effective and fair method of deciding how the final seat on the city council is to be appointed is through the option of holding the application and interview process through which the city council will be seeking out a final seat on the board. I see this as the most effective way because it allows people who are qualified for this position to be able to apply and have an equal and fair chance at representing their community on the council. Appointing this final position to the runner-up of the mayoral race is unfair to all others who are qualified to do great things at this position. Taking this course of appointing the runner-up in the mayoral race would also be detrimental to the inclusivity and equity of the city council, because, as mentioned earlier, 4 of the 5 council members would be residing within arm's length of each other in the Shadow Lakes area. This then isolates the community that they represent and the population that they represent when bringing ideas to the council. Diversity is important in all demographics, and appointing the runner-up would simply overlook and cast aside just and fair governance and give the position to the easiest option, and that is no way to govern the town that when many people have dedicated much time to making the city better, but have no chance at voicing and participating when cast aside like this. To truly be a diverse and inclusive council that seeks to have the most just method of filling this last seat and the most clear and fair option is to hold an application and interview process which allows the most qualified and dedicated individuals to put themselves in a position to make changes for their community. I have no individual quarrel with Karen Rary. I simply believe the best option is to allow all community members a chance to serve their community to the best of their ability. I do understand that a survey has been conducted, but due to the pandemic, as well as many other overlooked flaws in the survey, it is not representative of the entirety of the Brentwood population and should not be the deciding factor on how this seat should be filled. The application option is the most cost-effective as well as the most tangible idea that represents American democracy in its truest form. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Gary Ann, followed by Xenia Stevens. Gary Ann, go ahead.
Hi, yes, thank you. I agree that Karen Rary should be appointed to the empty seat. The survey has, even though the city-generated mailer recently went out to only certain residents, per the mailer, under state election law, City Council can appoint a new member to fill that vacancy. The 2 new members of City Council proposed following that law and per option 1, appointing Karen Rary to fill that vacancy. It was new Mayor Bryant and Mr. Rodriguez that did not find compromise, as the mailer said, to follow the legal option. It is these 2 council members that want a political ally that they can vet out through an application process. Remember, a local developer was due to have a project voted on last fall, but at the last minute said they wanted to wait until after the election until there was a new city council. That same developer gave $40,000 in campaign contributions to the now mayor, Mr. Bryant. Now a non-city sponsored mailer has been mailed to only a portion of Brentwood residents, claiming to give the new mayor the chance to lead. Council members Mendoza and Myers are fighting against big developer money and backroom fraud. Mr. Bryant and Mr. Rodriguez should be embarrassed to be associated, either directly or indirectly, with this mailer and its under the table implications. Mr. Bryant and Mr. Rodriguez, it would serve you well to compromise. Follow legal option 1 and appoint Karen Rary to the empty city council seat. Mr. Rodriguez, before you draw more attention to the, quote, glitches of the survey, I would like to read to you from a September 2018 interview when you stated, in the question, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Brentwood? And your answer was, I will set up an ongoing outreach program where I can meet and discuss concerns. I will use the full range of social media options to keep in touch, and of course I will be accessible by phone. This role also involves working with active and involved residents. I need inputs and thoughts from citizens to be effective, and that means creating a strong team between our residents and their
30 seconds remaining.
And their elected officials. What outreach have you created in the past 2 years, and did it serve you in improving any kind of communications to your constituents? I am a District 4 resident. Honor Measure F from 1996. Be mature, reach across the aisles, shake hands, and appoint Karen Rary to the empty city council seat. Thank you.
The next speaker is Xenia Stevens, followed by Maribel Mendoza. Xenia, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Xenia Stevens. I'm a resident of Brentwood for 6 years. I have known Joel Bryant. I know him through his wife. My son went to her daycare when she ran it, and I never had a problem with them. They're good people from what I know. And I trusted him, and I feel like some of that trust, frankly, was violated when I found out about some of his donations from the Sierra Pacific Properties that's owned by Albert Sino, who's pushing the Bridal Gate development. I've never attended a city council meeting, and I've always been interested in city politics, but haven't taken an active role. But after hearing about all this and this dispute about who's going to be in the next position, I felt compelled to attend and to speak out and speak my mind. I think we have a need to have an efficient government here and to work together. And I feel like by doing what's the will of the people and what they voice, which is that they would like the second highest vote getter to be placed into the position, I think that would serve a wonderful bridge of trust to Joel Bryant to do that for us, because it would show that he listens to what the respondents requested, what they would like. It's not the most ideal thing to happen, but I think it's something that many people have voiced that they would like to happen. I think it's financially prudent. I think it's unlike the person that spoke, not the last person, but the other person said that it said appointing the second highest vote getter wasn't the most tangible idea. But to that, I say I disagree. I say this is the most tangible idea, appointing the second highest vote getter. I think that should be the deciding factor. And I think while representation is important, of course it's important. We want all districts to be represented. For this circumstance, it's extenuating circumstances, and I think for this,
30 seconds remaining.
Karen Rary should be appointed. Thank you very much.
And if I can remind those that have already spoken to put your hand down in WebEx. The next speaker is Maribel Mendoza, followed by Nick. Maribel, go ahead.
Yes, Maribel Mendoza, Hijas del Campo, president and co-founder. It has come to our attention that people are speaking without realizing who is watching and who is listening, specifically addressing Vice Mayor Johnny Rodriguez. Let it be clear that I am here to speak solely on facts. The Hijas del Campo group was created to and has always been on the ground to protect campesinos, farm workers who live in the Far East Contra Costa, including Brentwood, California. At an event on September 29th, Mr. Vice Mayor Johnny Rodriguez, who stated as I was leaving, there is this huge opportunity with a donation of $10,000, and I'd like you and the Hijas to be a part of it. Let's meet this week. I was, of course, excited, not knowing the root or the origin of this money, as I didn't think anyone would be so not very smart to think I would accept something like that. Fact, we talked a few times after that to set up a meeting, and because I genuinely thought you were interested in helping us in order for us to continue the work, the good work of helping our campesinos. Later date and time, all four Hijas del Campo met with you, Vice Mayor, in person, stating that there were so many possibilities of action that could take place with a donation of $10,000. However, that the issue is that this is developer money, in which I stated, and I'll say it again, we do not work with dirty money. Do not associate our work with the mess Johnny Rodriguez and Joel Bryant have going on. Let this be known, Hijas del Campo doesn't want your time, we don't want your connections, and we sure as hell don't need your money. To Johnny, remember why you took the position that you're in, not to take dirty money and not to be BFF with Joel. You've tried to fool people of your district by buying a developer project promise of sidewalks, nice parks, and a new neighborhood like they have on the other side of town. When you know good and well that if you wanted those things for our side of town and for our gente, you would have gotten those things done by now. You have spread misinformation about the Drelly Mori project and to people whom you have known forever, telling them that they had no voice or opinion if they didn't live in the city. Even speaking to us about your opinions of this project. We are here, and this concerns our campesinos, and we will keep pushing forward with being against this project. Also, Joel and Johnny, please put respect on City Council Jovita Mendoza and City Council Susanna Meyer's name. That's all.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nick, followed by Cassandra Young. Nick, go ahead.
Thank you. As a Brentwood resident of District 4, I do not agree with wasting taxpayer-funded funds to support a special election or a unique application process to fill the current open council seat. This is not what the community wants, as reported by city staff in the recent special survey results that were released on 12/28. Residents overwhelmingly stated their wish for an open seat should go to the second highest voter receiver, which is not out of the ordinary or a new idea for the city of Brentwood. The residents of Brentwood have answered your calls for their opinions. It is now time to move forward and appoint the second highest vote receiver forthwith. Any other option would be a gross incompetence and a drain on city resources during already stressful times. Do not be like Washington and delay. Brentwood residents have stated what they want. Together, we can build a better Brentwood. Stay healthy. Thank you. Nick Cuevas.
The next speaker is Cassandra Young, followed by Anna Flores. Cassandra, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, I think Brentwood is awesome. I agree with everything that everybody has said in front of me, with the exception of one. I'm sure you're keeping count. There's only been one who was for the appointment process. Curiously, he used the words American democracy as being the appointment process. However, if you look up the word democratic, right, in Merriam-Webster, it says, based on a form of government in which the people choose the leaders by voting. So it's very clear that we have already gone through that process many times. You've heard the will of the people, so now is really the time for you to act upon the will of the people. There is absolutely nothing democratic about replacing thousands of voters' choices with 4 people interviewing someone. That is definitely not democratic. So I won't take up more time than that. I do want to say thank you to the city manager and the staff. I know this is very difficult to put this together and turn it around in such a fast time frame, and I do appreciate the responsiveness that I received from the city manager to my emails and my questions. So thank you for that, and thank you for your responses. Aside from that, I think it's very, very clear what the city council should do, and that is to appoint Karen Rary, who was the second highest vote getter from the last election. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Anna, followed by Michael Kleeman. Anna, go ahead. Anna Flores, and the last half of the name is cut off on my screen. Simon? Anna? I will come back to Anna and see if Joe Eli is available. Mr. Eli, did you want to speak?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I live in Brentwood, and the mass emails and political mailers that were disseminated in order to sway the results of the council vacancy survey smack of deceit. Beyond that, they bespeak the height of hypocrisy in labeling as a special interest citizens who are working to avoid the unnecessary city expense of a special election and who favor the appointment of a proven city leader, Karen Rary, who won more votes than any city council candidate in last month's election. It seems that the true special interests are the wealthy forces and their friends who are paying many thousands of dollars on an extensive, clandestine media campaign. There seems to be a connection between developers and some political leaders. Residents of Brentwood have the right to know the true interests that are represented by the campaign, or rather by campaign consultant Dan Lee's media campaign. How much was expended by the campaign and who the secret contributors are to that campaign. We need to follow the money and find the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go back to Anna. Go ahead, Anna. I'll come back to Anna. If everybody who's already spoken can put your hand down in WebEx, and I'll move on to Michael Kleeman now. Go ahead, Mr. Kleeman.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Margaret?
Yes.
Great. I want to send out a big thanks to city staff to get all that work done with the survey in what was like 10 and 11 days or so was nothing short of phenomenal. So I do want to give kudos to city staff and thank them. Listening to everyone tonight, I'm not sure why any of us expect anything different from Joel and Johnny at this point. Their hands are tied. They can't do what's right. They just can't. They can't listen. If you were in their shoes, how would you act? How would you vote? Their families' livelihoods are at stake here. If they give even the slightest impression of going against what the developers want them to do, the good old boy network, they're in a world of hurt financially. So, I mean, think about it. What does a council member make on an annual salary? $10,000. That's it, $10,000. And Joel and Johnny are the only two council people up here that don't have a 9-to-5. They don't have a job. I'm not sure what they do all day, but they ain't working. So Joel, as I understand it, is a preacher or something in a church or a vacant building downtown. I'm not sure what, actually I know what it is, but, and Johnny runs what he calls is a nonprofit, but which technically isn't even a nonprofit. He's not licensed or registered as a nonprofit, but we get into this issue and anger over the two of these guys accepting campaign contributions during campaign season. But that's not the only time that they're soliciting donations. They're soliciting donations 365 days a year. You can donate to them right now as we're listening to this council meeting. Joel's personal website, his personal website, you could donate right now to him, and then maybe he'll listen to us. Maybe he'll listen to you. His website, flcbrentwood.org. flcbrentwood.org. You can donate to him right now, and no one will know about it except you and Joel. And Johnny's website, Johnny's fake nonprofit website, odatec.org. odatec.org. You can donate to Johnny right now, and only you and him will know about it. O as in one, D as in donation, A as in Ada, T as in time, eastcounty.org. That's the Brentwood way. That's how you get crap done. Joel, if you ever defame or slander me or my wife again, like you did in October, I will sue you so fast and hard, you'll be speaking in tongues the other 6 days out of the week. You guys are marks now. Thank you, Margaret.
Excuse me, Margaret, is there any way to be able to, whoever needs to jump in, if it's the city or Tim or whoever, I'll be honest with you, sitting here and listening to lies and nonsense it gets a little bit old on a weekly basis. You know, every one of these meetings. I don't know, are we able to talk or we just sit here and let the public be able to say things that are not true? But not only that are almost borderline threatening my family. On top of that, and I mean, questioning my integrity. I know that there's a sense of professionalism that you got to have in this position, which I would hope that everybody would have. And I hope that I've been able to conduct myself right and correctly. But man, this is becoming a lack of respect for people that are trying to represent your city the best way they can. And all because of one decision and one discussion in 1 week, everybody has come to these assumptions. It's really, honestly, as the longest on this council and the longest resident that's probably even speaking, it's so disappointing to see that our residents can conduct themselves the way that they are and say things that are so untrue. When honestly, I've done more in this community probably than any of these people that are talking. On top of that, I have dedicated my life to my community and to my cities that I've worked in. And to sit here and hear the lies that are being said, and especially even from people that you've tried to help, that you try to make their things better. You try to support them in different ways, not hurt them. And so my thing is, it's very difficult, especially when you're attacking, integrities, but on top of that, my family and saying things, that's crossing the line. You know what I mean? I think Brett could be better than that, even when we disagree with each other. I'm not here to agree with everybody. I'm not here for everybody to agree with me, but I also think that we can have a level of respect when it comes to speaking to people that are really trying to just do what's right for the city of Brentwood. I've never tried to disrespect Jovita's family. There's no way I've done that. I try not to do that. I don't know where that came out. I would never do that, Jovita, and I hope you're listening, Councilmember Jovita. I would never do that. That's not who I am. That's not me. I don't remember that, but there's many other things. I'm sorry if I'm not being professional. I'm a very passionate person, and I'm very dedicated to the things that I do. And it's just really disappointing to hear this. So I know there's going to be more comments. If you want to address it and say, Johnny's acting unprofessional, doing this and this and that, that's fine. But you know what, though? Also, please try to conduct yourself in a way that, you know what, be professional, be tasteful, and we don't need to agree, but we could also be respectful even when we disagree.
Johnny, I understand that you do a lot for the community, but let's be honest, like, people are upset and you need to sit and listen to them, and I'm going to be in the hot seat someday. And here's the other thing, John, I mean, you brought this up. You have brought up, did you or did you not bring up Dwelly Morey to me before I was a council member and all of the benefits and what it was going to do for that side of town? And you tried to get my support for that project before I was even on council.
Excuse me, Councilmember Mendoza, this is far from the agenda. This is not a legal conversation. It's far from the agenda. So I'm going to ask Margaret if you can quieten all of the individuals right now, because we are far from the agenda, or we could have. I am the chair of this board. We are not having a free-for-all conversation. I'm asking for all of the council members to be muted at this point until we can get back to the agenda.
I totally get it. He got to go on and on because he's a male and I'm a female.
So at this time, if we could all maintain at least some portion of decorum and professionalism here. We've all been accused of things that are ludicrous and false. That's part of the First Amendment right. They have a right to say what they want, no matter what it is. They don't have to have facts. They can say whatever they want. That's the law. We're going to set up here and we're going to be professional because our residents deserve that behavior. And whatever this discussion is on the side, I have confidence that two mature adults that are electeds can have an off-site discussion. But right now, we're going to stick with the agenda. That's what we're here to do. And we're here to continue hearing public comments. So Margaret, if you could move forward with the public comments.
Yes, Mayor. The next speaker I have up is Anna Flores. And again, the last part of the name is cut off.
Hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me this time? Hopefully.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, great. Well, I guess I'm coming up at the right time. So number one, I've never spoken at a council meeting before. Number two, I wasn't privy to any of the meetings before, so I don't have any kind of preconception of what individuals and their attitudes and whatnot. Also, I don't know Joel or Johnny, so I can't say that I've come into contact or disappointed or whatnot. So I'm really just talking from the shadow residents, those of us that really do love Brentwood. We are one of the ones that that make Brentwood what it is. We are retirees, we're self-employed, foster parents, big tech, and we do believe in democracy, and we do actually have within even my neighborhood individuals that did not vote for Karen. They didn't vote for Karen Rary for mayor, but because we do understand that this is a democracy and we understand, Joel, that you are the mayor, this is that you are the leader here. You're the one that brings us together, and your behavior and what we're all watching is that which can have us have some resilience, especially in a year like 2020. So, you know, Brentwood, that you did that survey, if you remember, the Brentwood Council that said that we have some of the highest home ownership, and we also we're really very educated, not necessarily talking about degrees, but we're very educated on local politics, and that we're very much nonpartisan, and we're not binary. So that means that we go with the will of the people, and that means that, hey, if this is the mayor you didn't choose, this is the mayor you didn't choose or did. If this is the survey that came out, and said that for the majority that they wanted to have Karen fill that seat, well, then that's what democracy is. If we already know that at the end of an outcome that comes to getting an election and wasting money that we really need for other services here at Brentwood, that at the end of the day it would end up being Karen anyway, then the leadership aspect then and resilience would be, how do we go ahead and make sure that we are not just pro-development or anti-development? Instead, we can try to be collaborative. We can try to work with our skills, whether we're good in the community when it comes to outreach. Maybe we do know how to grow. Maybe we do have ideas on jobs. Maybe
30 seconds remaining.
On crime or whatnot. But I guess what I'm saying is that we need to be able to look at each other as a collaborative group and decide that democracy pretty much has decided that it looks like a majority of the people, not everybody, but a majority of the people want Karen Mary to fill the empty seat, and that there's a precedent set. And at no point, I will not disparage anybody because I have no individual knowledge. I will not.
The speaker's timer was up. I'm going to go on to the next speaker, Cindy, followed by Stephanie Sanchez. Cindy, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Great, thank you. A couple things I wanted to mention. You know, listening to everybody speak and how passionate everybody is, and I'm in that boat too. You know, I'm a resident of Brentwood 25 years. I'll be honest, I haven't seen anything like I'm seeing now, and I'm extremely disappointed. The gentleman that was speaking and saying, you know, I'm just so offended, and I understand why you would say that, sir, but, and again, I don't know anybody on this board, but what I didn't hear is, I'm listening to everybody. I'm listening to these voices. I'm listening to you, the taxpayers. All I heard was me attacking, but not everybody's doing that, right? Everybody's saying that they want what we voted for. And we voted for Karen Rary, and we want that. And I have to tell you, you have residents that are vocal, alert, and we are watching because we want our city to be better. We don't want Oakley stepping up and getting huge, you know, businesses, because we recognize that's what our city needs. We don't want Sino, and I was on that meeting. He actually on that meeting said, I'm not paying a fire annex or similar to that, and did mention suing Brentwood similar to that. So I just want you to listen to these people, and I want you to take into consideration everything that we're saying. And I want you to understand, we want a good, strong city with a great foundation, and not, I don't know what we're dealing with now. And I do have to tell you, with Susanna and Jovita, you know what we're getting is transparency, and I think we all appreciate that. And I think you and the vice mayor, our mayor and vice mayor, have to be transparent. And I am also concerned about the developers because, and I'll refer to that meeting one more time. The other piece in that meeting that somebody brought up, and I appreciate that, is we voted, and they decided to wait until they saw who was voted in as in our council, or I should say as our mayor.
30 seconds remaining.
And I think that really tells us a lot. So what I'm asking is just please listen to these people, listen to all of us, and do the right thing that's best for Brentwood and not for you personally, if that's what you're thinking. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
The next speaker is Stephanie Sanchez, followed by Nigel Jessen. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I think this will be short. I want Karen Rary to be the one to fill that council seat. I support everybody else who is like-minded. I suggest that you stop wasting time, especially if you have a special election costing the city money. So just put her. That's what our voices are telling you. Just put her in that seat so you can get busy doing other things for Brentwood. This used to be a nice city to live in. I used to really enjoy living here, and it's changing. It really is. It takes 30 minutes to get out of Lone Tree onto the freeway because of so much traffic. You allowing more homes to be built will make that even worse. The homeless situation is getting out of hand. So I think you guys need to address that also. Like I said, just appoint Karen Rary and so we could move on to other things that the city needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nigel Jessen, followed by Marisol Velez. Nigel, go ahead.
Hello, yes, thank you for allowing me to speak. And I just wanted to say that I know this is a difficult process that we're all going through, and feelings are becoming raw in the process. But I think if you look at what people are saying, it's definitely that the citizens of Brentwood have spoken loudly, and there's precedence behind it. So Karen Rary is well qualified, and is the citizens of Brentwood want to be put into that seat. So I encourage you to do that. On the other side of the equation is that money dirties everything, and you may not be aware perhaps of Say No's influence over you, but they are the devil in disguise. If you think Say No is your friend, you are kidding yourselves. And I think you should distance yourselves from those people who are sponsoring you with trying to influence you. Joel and Johnny, I just encourage you to do the right thing. Karen is well qualified for this seat, very well qualified, better than anybody else that you could bring to the equation. So that's all I want to say right now. I really appreciate Avita and Susan being on the council, and stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Marisol, followed by Philip Brecker. Marisol, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say this is more than just a decision. This is pretty much one of the biggest decisions because of all the upcoming items that are coming in the next 2 years and all the rezones that were tabled that are coming up. So if you, I'd like to just ask the city council to please choose tonight to accept the second highest vote getter from the mayoral candidates to fill this vacant seat. An application process is not a fair process. It's the most unfair of all the three processes. There is no representation in that process. I'm really hoping that Joel and Johnny can be humble and accept the will of the people. No one's perfect except, maybe God. And it's okay to be wrong. But what is true Christ-like behavior is to say sorry and know how to make the right choice, difficult choice after being wrong. I hope Joel and Johnny can be humble and listen to the people of Brentwood. Please choose the second highest vote getter from the mayoral candidate to fill that empty seat. Show us that you are listening and that you do care, and so that we don't continue this bickering. And really quick to talk about other things. Prove us wrong. Show us your 990s. If you have a nonprofit, show us your 990s, and then it's a done deal. Joel and Johnny, please, I beg of you to listen to what the people are saying and make the right decision. And I pray that you're hearing and that you can choose Karen Rary. Thank you.
The next speaker is Philip Brecker, followed by Jesse Juarez. Philip, go ahead.
How you doing? First of all, Joel, I thought it was ironic that you cut Jovita off after you let Johnny go ahead and say what he had to say. I don't think that was fair at all. First of all, my name is Philip Brecker. I thank the council and the mayor for letting me speak as a concerned citizen of Brentwood. I have raised a family and have lived in Brentwood for 20 years. I have seen the growth and have lived this mass development this community has endured over the years, for the good and for the bad. I believe in smart growth, and I do not in mass development spurred on by deep pockets for developers. I believe developers and elected officials should not be intertwined. We need to separate our politicians and developers for the obvious reasons. Accepting any contribution from a developer, in my mind, is wrong. Mr. Bryant, you accepted $20,000 at the last moment of the mayoral election by a developer who, let's face it, does not have the greatest reputation in this city. It just seems to be shady at best. To actually win the election by less than 2% of the vote after receiving this money, to me, is a crime. You won this election, but it comes with a huge asterisk. There's no question about that. You won this election because you accepted another $20,000 from a developer who was looking for payback. You know, why would Mr. Sino give you $20,000, Joel? Because you're a nice guy? No, because he wants something in return. I know that. This community knows that. And Joel, yeah. I implore this council to seat Karen Murray in the vacated council seat. 66% of the citizens of Brentwood responded to the city's council survey. They say the same. You don't have a choice. We have spoken. Even after a fraudulent mailer was mailed to our homes by a special interest, probably developer, speaking complete nonsense. To me, they were all lies. It was appalling. I believe in Jovita and Susanna, citizens of this community who truly care about this city, who want to do the right thing. They are for the people. Joel and Johnny, I think both of you have proven you are. Please appoint candidate who had the second most votes in this election. That is Karen Murray. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jesse, followed by Kenan Stevens. Jesse, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I've been in Brentwood growing up since the 70s, and I remember when there was 5,000 people here. We were a farm community and we all knew each other. But throughout the years, things changed. Now we're up to 60,000 people, and I haven't been involved in my local politics. I've been busy in my own life, but last week when there was the last meeting, I was reading up on some of the issues and some of the debate, and I reached out to the council members. I sent them all an email, and right away, I got responses from a couple of council members. We're having a debate. We're trying to do the right thing for Brentwood. Council member Mendoza reached out to me, and I was impressed by Johnny Rodriguez because he actually gave me his phone number. So I go, let me call the guy, right? So he invited me to have the conversation dialogue. Okay. So I did that. I listened to him, he listened to me, but end of the day, we're not always going to agree on everything, but we're all passionate about Brentwood. The level of debate needs to be respectful. We shouldn't be like other dysfunctional cities, right? We're all adults here, right? We're just trying to do the right thing for Brentwood. And we all know when you inject developer or into politics, they try to buy policy. We all know that. Okay, we all care about Brentwood. Okay, I know there's 4 districts, but the citizens and the residents, keep, I keep hearing the same thing. The second highest vote getter, I think Livermore had the same issue, and it was a past practice here, and that's what the will of the people wants. So I concur with the rest of the folks. We need to, not spend money on the special election because we have a pandemic. In 2 years, that seat will be up. We'll have an election. Hopefully, we're out of the pandemic, and we get back to governing the city of Brentwood. But it's kind of saddening that after I did send out the email, then I get this mailer, and my concern was the division that this mailer is created. Here we're throwing rocks at people. We're better than that. I may not agree with Joel, Johnny, or Ms. Mendoza because I don't even know any of you, but I know we all care about Brentwood. I think we should be all adult enough to come to a consensus and just do the right thing. And another thing that impressed me about Johnny, even though I've never met the guy, he invited me for
30
coffee.
seconds remaining.
And I'm also a parishioner, right? I go to church and back in Heart Mary, and we're all people. We're all passionate about Brentwood. I think we can do the right thing here, but I think we just got to listen to all of our views without throwing rocks at anybody, and we'll be okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kennan Stevens, followed by Stephanie Aronson. Kennan, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I just think that if we're going to allow one person to speak, Vice Mayor Rodriguez, uninterrupted, then I think Councilmember Mendoza also deserves that opportunity. So maybe you could just give my time to her. Thank you.
The next speaker is Stephanie Aronson. Stephanie, go ahead.
Go ahead. Hi. Did I hear Jovita say that Johnny was advocating for Dwelly Mori outside of the open public meetings? That's interesting since I'm a person affected by Dwelly Mori. However, that was not the topic of my comments. I would like to remind the city council members as a whole what the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act of 1967 says. This is part of California government code, and it says, I quote, public commissions, boards, councils, and other legislative bodies of local government agencies exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. The people do not yield their sovereignty to the bodies that serve them. The people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed to retain control over the legislative bodies they have created. I would like to remind the council members that you represent the people. You do not decide against the people's will. You are our public servants, and therefore you are supposed to represent the public's will, not your own special interests, Johnny Rodriguez and Joel Bryant in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can remind the speakers that have already spoken to put their hands down. The next speaker is Kathy Reed. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, thank you, Margaret. For listening to all of the comments tonight, a couple of things just popped into my head. In the November election, we had two strong candidates for mayor that basically divided the votes, with other candidates bringing up the balance. By appointing the second highest recipient of the votes for mayor, we're getting representation of both strong mayoral candidates. That seems a win-win to me and to the city of Brentwood. The district election process is new in Brentwood. Only 2 districts required elections this year. So the argument that multiple council members live within a short distance will be resolved in 2 years. Brentwood can benefit from Karen's knowledge and experience during that 2-year time frame. And I encourage the council to appoint Karen Rary to the vacant position. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some other attendees that are on a different list, so if people could just bear with me for a moment. I have a call-in user that is a Brentwood resident. I'm going to go ahead and unmute that person now. They wish to remain anonymous. Go ahead.
Hi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Yes. Listening tonight, most supporters of former Councilmember Rary, I would liken to a clique of group thinkers and thugs. With that said, I'm a senior citizen growing up in Contra Costa County. This position is not about cronyism, which is what I'm hearing. It's about integrity. And as far as integrity goes, I think that Mayor Bryant and Vice Mayor Rodriguez have always paid their bills and never filed bankruptcy, as some people have done. Now, according to the posted criteria on the City of Brentwood's website regarding the open city council seat, quote, under state election law can either 1, appoint a new council member to fill the vacancy, or 2, hold a special election, end quote. By dictionary definition, new is being other than the former or old. So appointing the second highest vote getter would not, in my opinion, be an option. Having an open application process allows those living in the east side to interview. Right now, council members all live in Shadow Lakes, probably where most of the calling is coming from. I've lived here the last 7 years in Shadow Lakes, like I said, most of the speakers, with the exception of Councilmember Johnny Rodriguez. Special election could be beneficial. It does allow the residents to have a voice in the matter, albeit at a $5 cost per vote. I think we're worth it, as our tax dollars have been spent for much less frivolous events. Visiting the east side is not like living there. The council should reflect a more diverse group of citizens, which it currently does not. Arguments that say not appointing the second highest vote getter is sexist, to me, is like saying appointing Karen Rary is due to white privilege. We should not defer to identity politics or innuendos. The council should allow applications to be made available to Blacks, Hispanics, and other ethnicities. They deserve a chance to apply. Do the math, people. 27% voted for Rary. 73% did not. The voters did not want those who ran to be reappointed. This is loud and clear. 3,000 responses on the survey doesn't represent 46,000 voters in Brentwood. If I ask each of you how much this special survey costs, which is fraught with inaccuracies, most of you on the council would not know because you didn't talk about it at the last meeting. Final but noteworthy, some abuse their leadership, like former council member Rary. Her knee-jerk irrational behavior after she publicly threatened to file a police report on me shows that she is not a great candidate and is not level-headed. And I would just encourage everyone that believes in the freedom of speech and to have a level-headed person in this position to open up the doors for other people to apply. And I would like to thank you all for listening. Our freedom of speech is very important.
The speaker's timer was up. I'm going to go ahead and, let's see. Danny Dorman is the next speaker. Mr. Dorman, go ahead.
Thank you, Margaret. And please be advised, Margaret, I intend to use the entire 3 minutes, probably not in the way people will expect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Danny Dorman, and my voice will not be heard. I've been thinking long and hard about what I was going to say today. Should I call out Johnny I'm a Delicate Low Flower Rodriguez for his condescending tones? Should I rant about developer influence and our need to stand up? And then I thought, I've already said this. This has fallen upon deaf ears. So then I had a revelation. I'm going to say a few words and request strongly, Margaret, that the rest of my time be finished in silence. Maybe the deafening tone of silence will get your attention. I urge everyone else who has time to do what I'm doing, and that is ask for the remainder of my time in silence. To silence the shenanigans, silence the developers, silence the way things used to be run. I'll say thank you when I have my beep.
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you.
I have a Julie A. I'll go ahead and unmute you now, Julie. Go ahead. Julie, did you want to speak? Julie, go ahead.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, now I can. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon and evening, everyone. I just want to say that I got on this call being pretty optimistic, being, born and raised a high school graduate as well as a college graduate in Brentwood, and seeing the changes and motions of everything, that I'm actually really upset and disappointed in the way people in our community act. First, I've seen people attack Mr. Joel Bryant, who has been voted not once but twice for city council, and the lead voter as our mayor, now be attacked for something that has absolutely nothing to do with this conversation. On the side of that, Johnny Rodriguez, the one person who is put in to advocate and help people in our community within school districts and really make a change and really speak up for a community that was never spoken up for before. My position on this was that we have more diversified areas of coverage, and this is nothing against Karen Rary. Had Karen Rary won and Joel was in this position, my feelings on this would be the same. We should have someone representing all of Brentwood. We want diversified, we want equality. But if we have people who are aware of not what else is going on, that's unfair. And I feel like people within city council and people of our community has made this an embarrassment. This conversation was being had and held by our city council to create fairness, to hear voices. And all I've heard is people being attacked, excuses being made, things to give people more of a credibility, like sexist and things, like people speaking of nonprofits, and a man who's given his whole life in Brentwood to helping people within the police district and people in need be attacked and used as a reason why someone should become on a city council seat, when this conversation should genuinely be about what do the people want and how do we create fairness. So right now, I think I stepped in this conversation and I'm just really upset and disappointed to know I'm a community member and someone born and raised in Brentwood. And these are the people around me. These are my neighbor people sitting here and attacking people and not genuinely just speaking their voices on the best of our community. That is all.
Thank you. If you just bear with me, I have a few people who have their hands raised in a different method, so I'm just looking through a different list. Jonathan Simpson, I'm going to unmute you now.
Good
Go
evening.
ahead.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I've been listening to this entire meeting, and I've just got a couple of quick observations. One is I sincerely feel for Vice Mayor Rodriguez and for Mayor Bryant, because I don't think that it was, or I hope it was not their intention to end up in the situation that they're in now, because it sincerely looks like they are in a corner, and I'm not sure that there's a way out for them that allows them to fulfill their actual responsibilities to the voters of Brentwood, while also maintaining the relationships that have brought them into the positions that they have. But I want to offer the observation that the voters of this city spoke very clearly at the time that we were unfortunately brought into our last special election as a result of the influence of developers who incorrectly calculated that they'd be able to get Measure L to pass. And it became evident when the votes were counted that in fact that calculation was incorrect and that the citizens of Brentwood wanted something different. The expression of how that desire turns into new faces on our city council gives a lot of us a tremendous amount of hope for what is possible in the future, because we do need change in our city. We do need better emergency services. We do want a different standard for development in the future. We do want economic development in the attraction of new employers to make it possible for people to live and work in Brentwood. But I guess what I would offer you as a suggestion is that Karen Rary is the way out of this problem. She is not the problem. And I didn't vote for Miss Rary. I can honestly say that I was hopeful that the election would yield a different mayor, but I am a very, very proud supporter of council members Mendoza and Meyer, because I think that they represent the kind of transparency and integrity that I think we can all hope for. Thank you, for the future of our city. And so, gentlemen, I sincerely, I feel for you. I know that you're in a difficult situation. I hope that you can find a way to make the difficult decision that you face, and look yourself in the mirror afterwards and see that you did what was right for our city. And I thank you all very much.
Thank you. And if I can just remind those who have already spoken to unraise your hand. The next speaker is Kathy Griffin. Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi. On the last city council meeting, deadlocked 2-2 on how this council seat vacated by Joel would be filled. It should be noted that council members Mendoza and Meyer did compromise by agreeing to let the city conduct a survey of residents to guide them in this process, even though the council had received 85 emails and 22 people spoke to appoint Karen Rary the second highest mayoral vote getter. Now the survey conducted by the city has yielded the same result. 66% of almost 3,000 respondents say to take the second highest vote getter in the mayoral election, Karen Rary. There's also, I should note, there was some confusion about when the survey ended. Using midnight on a date should not have been used. Then regarding the results, I found it interesting that the city chose to benchmark the respondent number by the entire population of Brentwood when only voters were allowed to participate. So it wasn't a 4.5% participation rate, but closer to 7.5%, which is a very high percent for a survey. If you look at the results district by district, districts 1, 3, and 4, District 4, I'm saying, all directed the council to appoint the second highest mayoral candidate, not some other elector. The fake mailer sent under the guise of concerned Brentwood citizens to sway the survey results did not work. 10 grand not well spent. Bottom line, you should not be allowed to apply for an elected position that does not give me proper representation nor vetting of your qualifications. And by the way, appointing Rary is not giving some special interest group a majority on the council. Everybody has to remember, each and every council person's job is to analyze actions and issues brought before them, as well as work on behalf of the entire city, not a district. Karen has always exhibited a keen sense of objectivity, does her research, benchmarks against past practice and other cities, and often changes council actions for the better with her expertise and common sense. I advocate for the appointment for this open at-large seat, not a district, until 22, and also that district could be changed based on the census. Don't forget that. From the last election, you should appoint Karen Rary, the second highest vote recipient from that election. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a speaker with the first name of Michael. I'm going to unmute you now. Go ahead.
Hello.
Michael,
my name's, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. My name is Michael. I'm a resident and a small business owner here in Brentwood. I don't know any of the council members on a personal basis. This is my first time joining a meeting, and I'm a little embarrassed and pretty appalled. I've been insulted as a resident a few times by the council and other residents while I was sitting in the lobby. I think it's a little ridiculous. I work a full-time job, have 3 girls I'm raising. I own and operate a brick and mortar store, which was opened less than a year before the pandemic turned the world upside down. But I still felt my time was as limited and precious as it is to me, should be spent in this meeting because I felt it was important. And I was calm and collected, but I'm pretty upset now. Residents spoke in the election, we spoke in the survey, we emailed, and now we're joining the meeting to speak again tonight. We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are suffering, businesses are failing, and we're going to waste more than $200,000 on a special election when we just had an election where we were all able to vote and tell you who we wanted. That seems ridiculous to me. The precedent is set. Residents have spoken. We've already paid the costs for an election, and the results are already in. Please put Karen Rary on the seat and stop using this back-asswards logic of only 20% voted for her, so 80% voted against her. That's an abuse of statistics, and it's an insult to our intelligence to use that. It's not acceptable for that sort of manipulation to be going on. And while we're on this subject of insulting us, if you're going to sit on the seat, you're going to listen to us when you've upset us. If residents are voicing their opinions and that's upsetting you and too much to deal with, get off the seat and give it to someone who will listen. Joel Bryant, if another council member is going to hop up and use their position to speak down to us, and then Jovita Mendoza is going to stand up for us, you will let her talk next time. The fact that the two of you are angry at all of us for voicing our opinions instead of being ashamed that you upset the residents you represent speaks volumes. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I have 3 speakers left. Cedric Moore, followed by Stephanie Sanchez, followed by Sandra Myers, followed by Wayne Francis. Another one just raised. A couple more hands just raised. Cedric, I'm going to unmute you now. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a little disturbed, especially how some of you are lying on Johnny Rodriguez. He has dedicated his life to helping our kids in Brentwood. Jovita, it seems like you are very mean-spirited, and if you don't refrain from this, I can see Brentwood receiving a lot of lawsuits because of what comes out of your mouth. Susanna, you ran on equity and inclusion. I don't believe you, which is unfortunate. Without growth in this city, there's no revenue. It would be better said, controlled growth. I personally am very impressed with Joel. All the things that you guys have said against him to rattle his cage he's been very calm and collective because he understands slow to anger, slow to speak, and swift to hear. Every single one of you on the diocese should possess those characteristics. Right now, Brentwood is considered the jewel of East County. How I know that? Because for the last 6 years, I've been attending the mayor's conference with Bob Taylor and some regional meetings. The city council has to do better than Bob Taylor. And if you don't come together under one accord, it is not going to happen. And that is very unfortunate for Brentwood. As an African-American man living in Brentwood, I thank God every day before I lay my head. And that is the reason why I can say I contribute a lot to Brentwood. Not being a liability, but being an asset. It is very unfortunate that you are willing to go to special elections just to put Karen on the open city council seat. I mean no
30
disrespect.
seconds remaining.
I mean no disrespect, but she lost. And we need to be very mindful and respectful to our city council members, also to our mayor. We need to support him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Stephanie Sanchez. Stephanie, I'll unmute you now. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you for your time. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process of having people submit applications, and some people voice their opinion that that's fair. However, I think it's actually unfair for people to apply and get interviewed for this position, because who's to say that these people aren't friends or relatives of Joel or Johnny, or relatives and friends of these developers that people obviously don't want to have control over the city. So that's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of money, because clearly people are going to have to spend time interviewing these people when they should be doing other things. Again, the last person mentioned that Karen lost. We're not talking about whether she lost. We're talking about how we're filling up the seat, and how other people have mentioned it would be more fair to have the second person in place for mayor to fill that seat up. And someone gave it a perfect example of how, like, in the 1900s, I forgot the exact year he mentioned, that the mayor who lost but came in second place filled up that seat. And clearly, using tax dollars for a special election is just completely absurd, especially during a pandemic. We don't need that. And I just want to say I'm representing not Shadow Lakes. I'm actually like a long resident who lives closer to like Brentwood Boulevard. And I've been here for like 20 years now. So again, I just want to reiterate what I said. The application process, it's unfair and a waste of time. Karen should fill up the city council seat, and spending money is just ridiculous for a special election. And that's all I have to say. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sandra Myers. Sandra, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. Okay. I got onto the meeting late, of course. I thought it was 7 o'clock, so I don't know if you've already voted or not, but one of the things that I'm hearing from the people who are speaking are attacks on you people, you four as council members, and I'm just aghast because you are in a thankless position. You put in all of this time, and to have people say bad things about you, I'm disturbed already. Having served as a volunteer for the city for 40 years, various cities, I know how hard it is, and I appreciate what you guys are going through right now. I have spoken before, so you know that I'm going to speak in favor of Karen Rary, but I want to tell you a couple of the reasons why. And one of them is that she can hit the ground running. You have a lot of things coming up on your docket, and to go through any of the other processes is going to take a lot of time. She can step into this position being fully aware of all of the issues that are out there, and we're only talking 2 years. I really, really think you ought to think about that. And the second thing, of course, is my major issue is the parks. And Karen served on the Parks Commission for Brentwood. She knows all the ins and outs. She knows the old agreements, the new agreements. And we do have park issues coming up. You know that in the Sino project and other ones as well. And so I'm really going to ask you to please think about the good of the city. We're talking 2 years. She can step right in, appoint Karen Rary, and be done with it, and then it'll go to the vote of the people. And thank you guys for what you do. I love you all. Thanks. Bye-bye.
The next speaker is Wayne Francis, followed by Michael Jones.
Good evening,
Wayne,
Council.
go ahead.
Good evening, Council. My name is Wayne Francis, and I'm a 17-year resident of Brentwood and a close watcher of city government over that time period. And unfortunately, I have to say that this is probably one of the worst and I hate to use this word, shams that's been put on by any elected member that I have recalled. And that statement goes towards a current mayor and vice mayor. A lot of you have stated that this has been contentious, etc. And you have to ask yourself, where is this coming from? I do believe there is accountability for one's actions and behavior. And, it comes from the top. To be perfectly honest, I don't know what more I can add to this dialogue that my fellow residents haven't already stated rather eloquently on various issues. And let's put it this way. It's clear that Karen Rary should be appointed to this seat. The survey of over 3,000 people has more of a voice than the two opposing council members who's trying to block Karen Rary's appointment, which has been stated clearly the will of the people. And this isn't throwing stones, as people have said, and casting other aspersions about calling people special interest and thugs, etc. But it's facts, and go look them up yourself. I know that Joel has 40,000 reasons not to appoint Karen, but there are 66,000 reasons to appoint Karen in the city of Brentwood. Brentwood needs her representation, her fair, even-handed representation. And I think that 66,000, and that's the total residents approximately in the city of Brentwood, also kind of reflects another number. 66% of them stated that they want to see Karen, based on that survey, appointed to this position. I'll end with thanking the city and the staff for putting this survey together in a very short time over the holidays. And I know it couldn't have been a very easy job, but I thank you for your service there. And I urge you to appoint Karen Rary tonight and stop with this deliberation and these, circular arguments and nonsensical arguments that we've heard from the last meeting, some of it carried over tonight. I urge you to do the work and serve Brentwood as you've been elected to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michael Jones, followed by Monty Dottie. Michael, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Glad to hear everybody on here that's pretty much giving their opinions. Some of these council members and mayor I've known from the past. I was a former city council candidate back in 2018 or whatever, 2 years ago, in the former GM at the streets. And honestly, what I've heard on this call tonight is appalling. Honestly, I never thought I would see something like this and hear what I'm hearing. It's just too many different excuses, too many different things that people are talking about that really don't have to do with the real issue. Now, this 3,000 people out of like some 50,000 residents we have, obviously that's not a representation of the whole city and what they think. One of the issues when I was council member candidate was that a lot of the folks that were like me who commute a lot and have jobs that, take up 10 hours of their day, they don't get into Brentwood politics. They don't get into local politics. They have a say-so, but unfortunately, they don't actually participate. So what I'm hearing on the call today are that small group of 2,000 to 3,000 people who are into Brentwood as far as speaking up and being very involved in local politics, and I'm glad that you are. But nobody can say it's a fair representation of the city what came from that survey. Now, Karen, I don't have any issues with her at all. She's always treated me nice, always been well, respected. So I'm not looking at this whole thing as a Karen versus the other side and all this other stuff. We got to step back for a minute. I heard somebody earlier talk about, this dirt on Johnny and dirt on Joel. And it's like, technically, from what I know, everybody up there has dirt on them. So I'll leave that at that. But I just want to say, to me, this looks more like a reflection of what's happening on the national scale. You're seeing an ideological difference between two different sides for reasons that I'm not going to go into. And I think, honestly, we all need to step back for a second, take a breath. Now, one of the things that I put in my survey was special election for the whole city does seem kind of absurd, especially for some $200,000, $300,000 or whatever. But is it not possible to do a special election just for that district, since it is technically a district now? And if it wouldn't have happened the way it did with like Joe getting his spot at mayor, there would have been an election for that particular, district where those people in that district can actually count. When I hear people talk about, oh, well, Karen was the second largest vote getter, Well, that's not fair because all the other candidates only got votes in their district. If they had votes from the whole city,
30
it could be a
seconds
whole
remaining.
different tally. So I know I didn't even campaign when I did my thing 2 years ago, and I got close to 4,000 votes. So just know, especially from somebody who very highly educated, very highly, in numbers and statistics, you can twist numbers any way you want. So I think we all need to take a breath and might have to have another one of these meetings down the road, but we got to think up some other ideas.
Speaker's timer was up. I'm moving on to Mr. Doughty. Monty Doughty, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. I appreciate the dedication the Council and Mayor have given of their lives to promote a better Brentwood. I realize it is a very difficult job. This is the first time I've actively attended a council meeting, and I've listened to all the citizens that have voiced their rights for representation and appreciate their input. Most of it's extremely thoughtful, but some of it seems to be extremely personal. I feel for Mayor Bryant and Councilmember Rodriguez for some of the personal attacks. After participating in the survey and seeing the results from all the districts, it is a represented voice of the citizens of Brentwood that Karen Rary be appointed to the vacancy of the council, and as per the precedent that has been set. I strongly recommend the council appoint Karen for that vacancy. If the city has the funds to expend for a special election, then I feel like we should consider donating that money to the nonprofits that are feeding the community during this pandemic, such as food banks, Meal on Wheels, etc. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you. The final speaker I have is Monica Martinez. Oh, there's one more after that. Monica, go ahead.
Okay, I am born a Brentwood resident and very disappointed and ashamed. You should all be ashamed how you represent our Brentwood community, bringing down our mayor and vice mayor. All the council members live in the Shadow Lakes community. So how is that supposed to represent our Brentwood community? I am 34 years old and have more respect for our members. Johnny Rodriguez, born and raised a resident, has done more for this community than all you so-called longtime residents. Have done nothing to improve our community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker and the final speaker is Hermaine. Ambrose.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Test 1, 2. I'd like to start off with saying that right wing, left wing, we all belong to the same bird, and we need to focus on that. It gets me very upset to hear Brentwood people who've been here for 5, 10, 15 years. When I've been here for 3 to 4 generations coming from BG camp, and I'm tired of hearing that this person has done that person has done this, and the moral of the whole story is what are we giving to our kids? What image are we showing the next generation besides hate? And he did this and he did that, go back to the biblical times, when Jesus, when they were going to stone the prostitute, and Jesus looked upon the people and said, hey, let the first person that has no sin throw the first stone. We can't forget that, and we can't lose grasp of that. I grew up in many, many different homes, from Brentwood to Stockton to San Joaquin Valley, you name it. I've been in different homes. And it doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor. We can't forget that. When I sit here and I listen to all this hatred, it gets me very angry because you know what? I grew up in the ODAP program. I grew up where Johnny Rodriguez was lifting kids up who didn't have a promised future. Now, am I sitting there saying, hey, yeah, I cite him for everything that he does? No, I'm just telling you that if you want to vote for somebody and you want to help somebody and you want to be part of somebody's life, then you become part of their life. Whether or not you like the other person that's coming up behind you or not, you have to be part of Brentwood, and that's all of us. Not one side, not B side, not C side, not blood side, not Crip side, no north side, south side, none of that. Don't lose focus of
30
that.
seconds remaining.
We shouldn't lose focus of that. And my main thing is I don't know too much politics. But like I was telling somebody, if somebody was running for mayor and they lost the mayor position, and then there was a mechanic position here in Brentwood that I don't know if other people have applied for that mechanic position or if they had a vote for it, but how do you bypass all those other
Time
people?
is up.
How do you bypass?
Sorry, the speaker's time was up. The next speaker is Chanel Martinez. And it doesn't appear that Chanel has a microphone on to unmute her. And there's no audio for her. So that was the final speaker that I had. I also wanted to note for the record that I'm in receipt of 59 emails related to this agenda item that have been submitted to council since after the December 15th meeting date, and those will be posted to our website tomorrow.
Thank you, Margaret. Seeing that there are no more public speakers, we're going to close public comments at this time. And we're going to go into board discussion. I do want to remind all of our council members, all of us, that there are rules of decorum that we are to follow as we interact with each other. As the council, this is a board that represents legal decisions for the city. I know that there's a lot of emotions that happen a lot of times, but we need to remember why we're here. And I appreciate you. I know all of you can do that, and I expect it of myself and everyone else. And I know that the community expects it of us as well. So at this time, we're going to go into council discussion. We'll go again, each member will give your input individually, and we'll start with Council Member Mendoza.
Okay, first of all, I could tell that Johnny was upset, and that is unfortunate. And right now, I don't think we should disconnect. There's two different things. There's Johnny and all the work he does for ODOT, and I think that's great. And I don't think anyone can negate that he's done a lot of good for his community. And then there's everything else. And I think we should take the everything else, Johnny, off the table. And you and I can go speak to Damien on our own and figure out what is right, what is wrong when it comes to Brown Act, because I do have some concerns. So we can take that offline. Next, I want to thank the staff. I know that I am new and I ask for a lot and I'm trying to learn. So I ask you guys a lot of questions and I appreciate you doing the survey and getting it up like people said. And sorry that I asked a lot of questions and I created so much work, but I really, truly appreciate it because I thought it was important to hear what the residents had to say. Someone in a letter said that, the art of politics is the compromise. And I don't see it as the compromise between us. I see it more as a compromise between our own ethics and our own values and our own morals. And I think I am going to stay true. Someone said I might get sued, then you know what, so be it. But you will always know what I think. You will always know who I am. Johnny and I talked when I was running. Like he said, I'm crazy because I really don't hide anything. I don't care. People can write what they want about me. And if it's true, it's true. If it's not, I'll let you know it's not, and I'll give you the truth. So if anyone has any questions, call me, email me. I'm pretty much an open book. I'm not ashamed of anything. So one thing that was really hard for me to hear during this was these people that wrote these letters that are supposedly part of Brentwood and this postcard calling our residents special interest. And that was disheartening because I am so proud of the engagement we have in the city. Like, it's amazing to me. I grew up in Oakland. That city's so large that it's so hard to really meet people and talk about the problems and get together and get to solutions. So being in Brentwood is awesome. Like, you can go downtown to a concert in the park, non-COVID, and get to know people and get through subjects. And I think it's fantastic. So those are not special interest people. Special interest people are lobbyists who have an organized organization with like membership dues, and they lobby and they do things. Like, this is a motley crew of people. Like, these people don't know each other. They get together online. They find that they have a common interest at that point in time, and then they work towards a goal. So they are not special interest. I don't know a ton of the people. As much as some people think I know all of them, I don't. Someone said that you can spin numbers, and yeah, I know the art of spinning numbers pretty well, and I actually try to spin the numbers the other way, like in benefit of the application process and the special election, and every way I sliced and diced, weighted averages, point averages, everything, it came back to the same thing. The second highest vote getter of the election won every way I sliced and diced it. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's only 3,000 people or so out of the 60,000. So how accurate or how much confidence should I have in something that's 3,000 out of 60,000? So I actually looked up the statistical relevance of 3,000 respondents out of 60,000. And I used 3 different models, and the different models came up with 95% confidence rate with between a 2 and a 1% margin of error. That is phenomenal. Like, when you're looking at like a presidential election, you get 95% with like 4%, right, margin of error. So what we got is really, really valid. And anyone who says it's not a valid data source for us making a decision needs to explain to me the analytics of why, because this was a really solid return. It's like nothing we've ever seen in Brentwood, for one, and again, really strong. Like, 2 of them had it at 2%, one of them had it at 1.75. So pretty strong results there. Someone mentioned to me that, and I know it's uncomfortable for everyone to hear everything that goes on right now, right? These are not comfortable conversations. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of feelings. We all have backgrounds, and we came into the political arena knowing what our backgrounds are, and they're going to talk about them. And we just need to sit here and take it. It's what we have to do. And trust me, Johnny, it's you today. Someday it's going to be me in the hot seat. Like, I'm sure of it. No doubt in my mind. But we don't have another opportunity to talk about things together. This is it. This is the only time the 4 of us can have a conversation and not be bound by the Brown Act. So as uncomfortable as this is for people, this is democracy, and this is our political system. So if we do it outside of here, what someone said is I'll get sued, that could be the case if I have these conversations with all 3 of you outside of this forum. So I'm sorry it's uncomfortable for some people, but it is what it is. The other thing, we all 4 of us got the invoice from Measure L, and because I wanted to understand the gap between the $3.50 and the $5, and I asked, and we didn't have that information last time. So I went through every single line item, fixed expenses, variable expenses, all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll be closer to like the $4, I would think, if we decide to do the mail-in option. So $160,000. I don't want to spend $160,000, but let's be clear. If we choose the mail-in option, which is the cheapest option, it's going to be about $140,000 to $160,000. So, given all of that, oh, and the other thing is, someone says that the application is most democratic, but I think it was Cassandra Youngblood that an election is the most democratic thing. There is nothing more American and more democratic, for our country than an election. So anything else is less than that. I do have concerns about, someone called about, the application process, and the person and I think people don't want to hear about money. Like, they don't want to hear about campaign contributions because money's uncomfortable for some people. But you have to look at campaign contributions because it does influence. And one of the callers actually is a big donor to both of your campaigns. So I have to sit here and question, like, why is someone that donated to your campaigns coming out, like, saying these things? And so again, it might be uncomfortable, but we got to talk about campaign donations. They do influence our decisions. There's no way they don't. And I'm going to keep talking and saying what I say. And again, Johnny, I'm sorry things went down the way they went down tonight. Again, two separate things. I got a letter from someone, a testament about all the good work you do. And I don't doubt that. No one doubts that you do good work for the youth. But I think that you and I have to have some conversations with Damien to talk about some other stuff that maybe we can put it to bed and not continue it any further. So I think that's all I got. That was kind of me rambling, sorry.
So I really want to know if you could give us some input on what your thoughts are on this process. I think I understood that you weren't looking for, but
yeah, I want to represent the residents. We got almost 3,000 responses, so I will align with all of the people with them and say second highest vote getter. Oh, and the other thing is, it was in Spanish. Like, it was in Spanish. I even made a post in Spanish on my Facebook page because I really wanted people of everywhere and of all backgrounds to be able to participate. If I knew other languages, I would have done it in other languages too, but I only know Spanish. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor Bryant. I've been involved in government relations, media relations, public relations for several years on a local, state, and national level, and done advocacy for people without a voice. I was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years. When I got back into the workforce, I started working with children with autism and their families, and literally worked with kids who didn't have an actual voice and tried to help them express who they were and how they felt. And I've been on a lot of stages. I have spoken a lot of times, and every time I do, I get nervous. I'm nervous right now. I'm shaking, I'm tense, my heart is pounding. It took me a half a century to recognize that I could actually have my own voice. Most of the work I've done in the past has been speaking on behalf of other people and helping them to find their voice. I haven't been one to be very vocal at meetings in the past. As I've said, I watch them, I listen, I report back on them, but I haven't used my voice to represent myself. And I share all of this, and there's more I'm happy to talk with anyone about. I share all of this not to just speak to hear myself speak, but to say that this is why I'm so passionate about speaking on behalf of people who don't typically have representation, who don't typically have a voice. I know a caller mentioned that he didn't believe me. I'm not sure where that came from. As Councilmember Mendoza said, we're all going to be under attack at one point. I knew this was not going to be easy. I'm not comfortable with conflict. I'll tell you that right now, but it doesn't mean I'm going to back down. And during campaigning, I was told I might be too nice for this and my skin might be too thin for this. And those things might be true. I might be nice and I might have thin skin, but it does not mean I'm weak. And it doesn't mean I'm going to back down when I'm ready to fight for something I believe in. And I believe in listening to people. To show that I'm hearing all sides of this. And frankly, I do better when I hear a varying degree of sides and opinions and oppositions to what my own viewpoints are. Stop acting like children, trust the mayor's agenda, learn to compromise and find common ground, hypocrisy, propaganda, special interest, not dealing in reality. Those were things that were said about me and my beliefs about this vote. You all know, as I spoke last time, that I am in support of the second highest vote getter for placement into the council. I think the fact that our residents have now spoken out as many times as they have, and in the amount of numbers that they have, I could not live with myself. I could not go to sleep at night if I didn't respect their voices. That's why I'm here. Again, a caller said he didn't believe that I'm doing this for the sake of equity and inclusion, but I'm the one that made a point of saying I wanted this survey to be available in Spanish. I'm the one that said I wanted there to be a phone voicemail message for people to call in who were not comfortable using online resources. I'm trying my best to make sure that people are represented across the board. I'm not just representing one part of the city. And I signed a piece of paper that says that. That's what we do as council members. Yeah, I feel passionately about this as much as everyone else does. And frankly, I'm disheartened by the amount of emotion. I have seen some of the horrible things that have come from campaign managers of other candidates. And I've been a victim of a smear campaign that didn't get very far, thank God, but it could. So I know how that feels. It doesn't feel good. I think coming back to it, we need to be respectful of each other, like we've decided, we need to be together. We need to, more than anything though, we need to listen to the voices that have spoken. This 3,000 people that spoke during COVID restrictions and during the holiday season and having less than 2 weeks to respond, and some being uncomfortable with language restrictions or technology, people receiving mysterious propaganda via email and in their mailbox, and they still voted, and we still had 66%. If that doesn't speak to you, and if that doesn't give you a fair representation about what the people in our city want from us, I don't know what else will. I'm going to state one more time that I am in support of Karen Rary as the second highest vote getter. I think at some point we need to talk about setting a precedent for this. It's not always going to be comfortable if this is a precedent down the road someone else happens to be in this position. Maybe it won't be as obvious to me personally. But again, what the people want is what we are here to represent. And I think they've told us, with some exceptions, of course, we're not going to please everybody all the time, that they want Karen Rary in this position. And before I give up my time, I have to agree with other council members on a very strong point. Staff went above and beyond during this time, and they met deadlines, and they fixed glitches that, there was glitches, there was wording issues, every single side of this could say, yes, but we weren't represented. They did everything they possibly could to make sure that citizens across our entire city were represented in a fair way. And I think staff did an amazing job of that. And I would like to thank them again officially for that. And with that, thanks for my time.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm gonna read off my notes here. I'm taking notes, of course. First, I just want to apologize for being a little bit emotional there. I'll be honest with you, it's tough sitting in this position and being involved as much as I have over the years to hear some of the things that are said, but it's part of the process, right? It's part of sitting at this seat. I understood that 2 years ago, but I can't lie. I'm human, and it's difficult for me because, I'll be honest with you, I don't even want to go there. But I also want to say that I've heard the people. I hear what the people have said. I've looked at the survey. Obviously, hear everybody speaking and giving their input. First off, I'd like to also thank all the emails. I want to thank everybody for sending an email. I know that I did the best I could in those emails. I'm not really an email kind of a person. I really like to talk more than emails. And obviously, I felt it was important to reach out to you guys that were emailing. And I also want to thank the people that had contacted me back. I'll be honest with you, about 98% of you guys that emailed that I asked to call me back, 98% of you guys never responded to that. So I want to say I appreciate the ones that did. One gentleman mentioned we had some great conversation. We didn't agree to everything, but that's the beauty of being different. That's the beauty of living in a community where you could have a voice, but you don't need to disrespect people nor bring them down to make you look smarter than anybody else. I also like to thank everyone that did for doing the survey. I'll be honest with you, I do have some concerns, and I'll mention those, but I do want to say thank you to the 3,000 people that participated in that, even the other 200 that didn't accept it because something was wrong. I want to recognize them for at least taking the time to do it. So that would have been about 3,200 people. I also want to recognize our staff, though, from the city, because I know that honestly, it was holidays. People were working a lot. So, you know, a lot of stuff going out there with the COVID-19. And a lot of these people came through at the last minute to put this together for us as a city. So I want to thank our staff, and then also having to do it all at the last minute to have it ready in a packet to be able to give out to the community and also ourselves. So I think I'm done thanking everybody. But I want to, you know, address some of my concerns in regards to the survey. For me, the survey was an advisory kind of a survey. It wasn't it's like having an advisory board, which I have for our organization. It's an advisory survey for me. It wasn't a survey that was, you know, what the survey says, that's it. I think, I mean, honestly, like I said, though, I appreciate everybody did it, but for me, it was more an advisory kind of a survey. I was a little bit disappointed to see the Spanish version where there was a pop-up, and I know our city manager had brought that up earlier, where people were going on there and it was saying within the interview application process, it was a $200,000 expense the city was going to have. And that didn't get caught until like the last 2 days, I'll be honest with you, from the 10 days, which is a little bit disappointing because people may have gone on there. Well, I know people have gone on there because they're the ones that told me, which I brought it up to the city. I'll be honest with you, the survey, I mean, the timing of the holidays, right? There's large portions of this community they're not here at this moment. I mean, a lot of them go to their families. A lot of them leave the country. A lot of them are not around, or a lot of them are just not here. You know, it's the holidays. So that's also a little thing that's concerning to me. The amount of days, it was 10 days, right? It was 10 days to do a survey, which obviously, you know, that's no excuse for anybody because we all had to follow through that. So it's nothing, I mean, it's wonderful to see these people did it with 10 days, right? Which is really, you know, something to look at. Another thing I always struggle with surveys, you know, I've been working in different areas in the community for a long time. A lot of times the loudest group or the loudest voice usually are the people that do all the survey, and the people that are usually the quietest and not more present to things or participating in things, or usually don't participate in surveys. They're not involved in those. So that's a little concern to me, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. This is the survey. We did the best we could. I'll be honest with you, the survey was difficult to do if you really didn't understand how to do surveys. But like I said, it is what it is. Also, I want to say something in regards to the historical portion of the 5th seat vacancy for the city of Brentwood. In February 8th, 2005, there was a special election. And December 12, 2006, it was the highest vote getter. In September 12, 2017, it was an appointed process. Currently, within our area, Brentwood Union School District had an appointment process, which means application interview process. Currently, the city of Livermore is also doing an appointment process, which is an application / interview process. So when we talk about there's a historical history of selecting the second vote getter in the city of Brentwood, I just went back as 3 because then it gets a little bit crazy and some of it's not, you know, they don't have the proper information. But I went back 3. The last 3 years, there hasn't been a precedence at all. If anything, it's 3 different ways they've done it. I wasn't on the city council for none of those. So I can't speak on any of those and the reason why they did it. I don't know if it was, I know some people would say backdooring and there was this, there was that. I don't know. I wasn't part of that. I just know that there hasn't been a precedence in this city when it comes to selecting the 5th person for the 5th seat. Before I go into my reasoning in regards to what I feel, I also, I know that Jovita and also Councilmember Mendoza and Councilmember Myers have both mentioned a little bit about themselves. I just want to be able to say a little bit, I guess, myself in regards to that. I'm not part of any group. I'm not part of any developer. I'm not part of any alliance. I'm not part of any coalition. I'm not part of any special interest. I'll be honest with you. When I ran, I did not run on a platform of any of those. I got support from different groups, which is very minimum support. But I wasn't part of any groups, to be honest with you. I ran the time that I did in 2018 was because there was lack of representation from the community. There was a lack of diversity on the committee, on the council. So my thing was for running is to bring a new voice, a new perspective to the council. I didn't run for anybody else. I didn't run for no groups. And I could say that here. You can look up my records. If you want to talk about it, we can do that. I ran for the community that I have always been, that I've always lived in and represented. So I have no interest in any groups that are out there, to be honest with you. I don't join them and I'm not involved with them. My reason for selecting the interview and application process is because I want to bring equity, equal representation in our community. I really, really struggle with all of our council members and our mayor will be located in one specific area. You know, from someone that doesn't come from that area, that's someone that sees other areas, that's very difficult for me. And when we talk about equality, that's not equality. That's not equity within the council and representation of this community. I walked 150 homes in 10 days, between 150 to 200 homes. I went and walked them myself. I walked in with my wife, I walked in with myself and with others to be able to hopefully see what people think about this survey. 98% of people out there did not even know there was a survey. There was no flyers. They don't go on social media. They're not part of any of these groups. They're not reading the newspaper, which the majority of the newspaper now is online. The majority of that community, 100, I'll be honest, I have a list of 100 and some people that I went homes, not one of them knew about the survey. And I feel that what lacked in the survey was it didn't have any type of description of what does it mean, the second person, the second person elected. What does it mean? It doesn't. It didn't. The only one it had was in regards to the special election, the $200,000. So for me, that's what I wanted to bring equity and balance to the council. And it's very difficult for me to see a community being separated by this kind of process. I don't know why an interview and application process would be so political. Obviously, Councilmember Mendoza, Councilmember Myers, you guys have been transparent and honest about what you guys feel, and I appreciate that. Believe me, I appreciate the opinion of a woman. Believe me, I work with many of them, and I have a beautiful wife that I'm married to that I respect. I respect all women. So in saying that is this: if we were doing an application interview process, I know for a fact you would not let anybody in there that you felt that had a special interest. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because why? That's your opinion. Vice versa, I agree. I don't want anybody in there trying to do this or that for either group or for any coalition, for any developer, for any whatever coalition or any group that's out there. I would like to select the person that has the right intentions for the city of Brentwood. And in saying that is, Carreri could put an application in. She could be interviewed. Others could put interviews. But we can't give the people of this community not the opportunity to maybe come up and present themselves that may have the qualities to be able to represent this community. I don't know how we do that. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't say, well, we got to pick that because no, all four of us would be part of that process. And your communities trust you as my communities trust me. So I don't know how there would be any backdoor politicking going on. I don't know how any of that, because honestly, I know neither one of you would let that happen. Neither would the mayor. The mayor will let that happen. I know there's been a lot said. I know I'm saying a lot, but I did want to put that out there. And that's where I'm at right now, because I just feel it's the right thing to do when you could talk about equal representation within our community. So that's where I stand for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I do want to say a couple things. I have been on council for 10 years. In that time, I've also been on the fire board. And in all of that time, every decision I've made is public information. And there's been a lot of research into things that I've said and done. And every bit of that is public knowledge, public information. And I have absolutely never made a decision based on any other fact than what is best for Brentwood. I have had a lot of different people donate to my campaign funds, just like almost everyone that has ever run for Brentwood has up until this most recent campaign. And I have a track record that is proven. But most of all, regardless of myself as a council person, and I know most people in the community don't know me, but first and foremost, I am a resident here. I'm a dad, I'm a husband. I have been here for 20 years, and I know I'm still one of the new guys in town. There are families that have been here for over 100 years. Having said that, every day that I get up, most people, and it's been brought up that I'm a pastor, but more than that, I am a Christian. And I know as a certainty in my life that I answer to God for everything I say and do. And so I don't make decisions based upon emotion if I can help it. I'm not saying I don't have emotions, but I have to answer to God. I have to answer to myself. I have to answer to my family, and I have to answer to this community. And I have everyone looking at me, and have had for 10 years, on all my decisions and all my motivations. Because I have that track record, I can say without any question whatsoever that if you want to find out if a person's donation to my campaign fund has had any weight to any decision I've made, you're free to ask any one of them. There's been significant opportunities for them to speak up, for everyone else to speak up. I've been accused of a lot of things that just simply aren't true. And I was accused of lying by someone last week. And yet the conversation that I had is recorded, it's public record. And I have proven that wasn't the case. And because number one, I don't. Anyone that does know me knows that I have worked very hard to keep a good, clean name my whole life. And I have, and I do. And unfortunately, if I have to eventually take this into a next step to prove it, I can legally prove everything that I've said as well. Because when you're an elected person, you don't just get to say whatever you want. Every word that comes out of your mouth has somebody's attorney attached to it, either yours or the other person's. And so when people come to say things in public comment, they don't have to have any element of truth to anything that they're saying. And yet, as an elected person, we are required to uphold a standard of integrity and truth. And so the things that people may think or assume or say, just because it's being said loudly does not mean it's true. I'm happy to meet with any single person or any group that wants to ask this. So having said that, that's pertinent because of how I feel about this process. Like the Vice Mayor just said, there is not a process that happens that it doesn't take the majority of council to weigh in on. And I don't represent any individual or group other than the community. And the thing that I have proven by my votes in the past is that if a developer wants to come in and do something that's not good for Brentwood, the answer has always been no. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the record, and it shows that that's the case. And so I don't want anyone on council that's influenced by anything other than their own moral integrity. I want to work with people that are thinkers, that have high moral standards, that love Brentwood, that love the families of Brentwood, and that love everyone in Brentwood, regardless of their background, where they were from, their ethnicity, their religious organization, or their identity. It doesn't matter what they are. I want people that are free thinkers, that are willing to stand up. When I was asked what I felt about this current council, I said I was excited, and I was for a very, very real reason. That I believe every single one that's on this council genuinely loves Brentwood and will genuinely stand up for what's right and what they feel is right for the right reasons. And I believe that. And so far, you've proven me right. I'm glad for that. Not that my opinion means any more than or less than anybody else's. But in this process of representing the community, the interview and appointment process, not only does it save all the money, but it also gives people the opportunity, to step up and be seen and be heard. And in the end, yes, through this appointment process, could the second highest vote getter be the person that is appointed? Certainly. But it also gives the opportunity for the rest of the community that isn't all in one side of town to be represented as well. To answer one of the caller's questions, can we just have a District 4 vote? No, we cannot. This is an at-large position, and legally it must be an at-large fulfillment of that position for that election. So because that, I still feel that the appointment and interview process is very fair, because all of us are going to have to vote. All of us are going to have to find an individual through this process that we all have confidence is going to represent the community in an outstanding way. I know that there are a lot of people that can do that. And so, like the vice mayor also said, he said some of the things that I intended on saying, and that is this: I have confidence that none of us are going to allow any special interest group to come over and take over the decision-making process of our city. And because I have confidence in you as council members, I have confidence in the process that we were elected to do. We're the decision-making body. Yes, we have a democratic process, but we don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic. That is, that people elect us to listen to them and make decisions. And I want to say one last thing. Just because someone disagrees with someone does not mean they haven't listened and heard what they had to say. The entire United States governmental system was set up on the very foundation of having two opposing viewpoints come together in a reasonable and reasoning method to come to a solution that is a moderate solution that both sides can find benefit from. And so I think we need to try to do that as well here. I know that everyone has said on this council, we don't want to spend this exorbitant amount of money, and many of the callers also said for good reason, and I believe it, and I think most of us said at the last meeting, we can use that money for a lot of significant benefit to our local families and businesses. And we can still find an individual that we feel for the next 2 years in this seat can represent all of us well. And so, again, that is why I feel the way I do about the appointment and interview process. So at this time, I know we've all spoken a lot tonight, but at this time, if there's no more questions or conversation, I guess we need to go for a.
Yeah, I actually do have more. Yeah, I'm still uneasy. The last comment Councilman Rodriguez said was, your community trusts you and my community trusts me. And he's again and again said that he wants representation on his side of town when no one else has said that. So I am not comfortable with him ever giving anyone on the West a fair shake. So no, so we're going to end up deadlocked. So, people have spoken. They spoke in the election. They spoke in the survey. So if you don't want to listen to residents because you think that the sample size is too small, then I think we need an election where the sample size is as big as possible. And what I find interesting too is that the sample size is so important to both of you right now. But when it was Measure L, and I came and I implored you to not do an election with a smaller sample size because we should have moved it to a general election where we would have the majority of people respond, both of you did not seem to care about that. Like both of you chose the smaller election turnout possibility of 20%, which then made I had to work double time. I was getting mailers. I would have to research the mailers and the false marketing and have to be up till 2 or 3 in the morning. And I have a full-time job because you put me in that situation because sample size wasn't that big of a deal. So it's interesting to me that now sample size and only 3,000 people is so not important. Like those people's voices don't matter. Like how can you turn around to these people and say, we don't care. You know what? We don't care. It's so disheartening. I'm just so saddened right now that you don't really care about the voters. Again, you go back to an application process, which is, it's just a farce. And let's be honest, I don't think we're going to get there. So let's just move on to the election then, which I don't want to spend the money, but either you vote someone who got a lot of votes in the last election or you have another election. But this is just so disheartening and I'm disappointed. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad. This is how you genuinely feel, but I'm really saddened by it. And I'm saddened for the 3,000 people that took the time, for all the people that sent the emails that said, I didn't get the survey in on time. None of those matter to you right now at all. And I'm sad.
So do we have a motion? Was that a motion?
I make a motion to elect the second highest vote getter in the mayoral race, Karen Rary, to fill the seat.
I'm going to second. And I'm not influenced by any group at this point, just me.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Margaret, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez?
No.
Mayor Bryant?
No.
Motion fails.
So I'm going to make my next motion, not wanting to make my next motion, but it will be the cheapest motion, 140 to 160 versus 200. So now, I mean, the ball's in your court about how much you want to spend because we're going to spend money. So now it's in your court. So I make the motion that we do the May 4th election via mail for the cheapest option for our residents so that they get the most representation in this selection of the seat.
I second.
The first and the second. Margaret, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez?
No.
Mayor Bryant?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, so I think we're done, and I think
Mayor, can I say something really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was talking to the mayor, Mayor Bryant. This is going to go to a special election. I can already see that. I don't feel comfortable spending $280,000 on a special election. This is not going to go anywhere. I could see that we'll end up in February 6th having the same conversation. I respect both Councilmember Mendoza, Councilmember Myers' perspective. I'll be honest, I don't agree with it. I don't, but I could respect it because obviously that's your opinion. I do have feelings about, you know, groups and no groups and all that kind of stuff. But I also don't feel comfortable spending $200,000 and $280,000 on a special election. We have businesses, we have families that are suffering. We have other things that we can do with that type of money. I do want to say though that I'm not comfortable with taking the second mayor go-getter, but I'm also not comfortable with taking the money from the people. It's sad that we're in this position. It's not something we've asked for. It's not something we wanted to do. I really believe that as a community, we will lack representation of the community. In regards to what Ms. Mendoza said, I would love anybody to just have an opportunity. It doesn't mean they got to be in my district. And honestly, I would think it'd be great if they're in my district and District 4. So instead of there are 2 seats that are open next, because I don't even care if they're in my district. It would be fine. But I could see that this isn't going to go anywhere, that we're going to end up in February 6th doing a special election, right? And I'll be honest with you, I think we need to move forward. I need to start doing the business of the people and start helping our businesses and community. So I'm okay to move forward, even though I'll be honest with you, I'm not very convinced with it, but I know it's a 2-year seat just to move forward. And let's start doing the real business of the city. And I'd like to move forward to I'm just tired of us not being able to do what we need to do, and I can already see where this is going. I really like to see us take the second vote getter for mayor. I'd like to make a motion to move forward on that.
We have a first.
Can you, I'm sorry, I lost. Can you, what was the motion again?
I have to say it again, Rita. Councilmember Mendoza. Councilmember Mendoza, I want to say this before I say this. Really quick, Ms. Mendoza, Councilmember Mendoza. I want to respect your title. I want to respect you as a person, but I could honestly see that nobody's going to bend here. This is going to become $280-some thousand, $200,000 that we could use for the rest of the community. And I'm going to be honest with you, Councilmember Mendoza. I don't feel that this is not a special group that wants Karen Rary in there. I'm not worried about being reelected in 2 years. I'm really not. You know what I mean? My thing is that I know that for us to spend this kind of money and this kind of pandemic is very unfair to our community. And it's sad that we would have to go there because nobody wants to bend. I've worked with Karen Rary for 2 years. I can't say nothing bad. I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about her, but I also feel that we could have given more people opportunities within this community to sit on this council, Councilmember Mendoza. And I wish you would have thought the same. But obviously we don't. Okay, that's fine. But I do want to move forward with, I don't want this to continue. It's going to go to a special election. I can already see that. Let's just move forward. I'll be honest with you, it's very difficult for me to even say it, but I also know it's the right thing for our community to move forward. And I'll just state that if we could just move forward with the second vote getter for the mayor's race. And yeah. Did you hear it that time, Councilmember Mendoza?
Yeah, thank you. I second that.
I know I can't really third, but I'd like to third. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Rodriguez, 2 things. Future reference, my last name is not Myers, it's Meyer. But I absolutely respect your thoughts on this and thank you for them.
Yeah, I also want to say though, Ms. Myers, Councilmember Myers, I hope that you understand when you say, no, I'm not even going to go there. I just hope we do what's right for Brentwood, because I truly feel that, honestly, yeah, I hope we do what's
We
right.
can set up a time to talk. I'm happy to do that.
I'm okay right now, Ms. Myers. Thank you.
Okay.
So we have a first and a second. Margaret, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mayor Bryant.
In an effort to form unity and do what's best for the community at this point as a council, yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
Okay. Seeing that that is all of the business that is on our agenda at this time, I want to thank all of the callers, all of the speakers, and our council member. And again, before we dismiss, I want to thank staff for their outstanding effort to get this accomplished. And at this time, I need a motion for adjournment.
So move. I make a motion that we adjourn. Joe, can you hear me?
I can. We have a first.
Oh,
I'll second.
Okay. Margaret?
Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.